of the Manitoba Eco-Network. Just point out to their staff in the room here today. I'm joined here today with our project manager, Sorsha Peters. She's going to be doing most of the presentation. Our policy advocacy director, Heather Fast, is at the table. You probably met her on your way in. We also at the doors, we have Hannah Huberto Sinclair and Emily Grant also volunteering with us today. And I'll just also acknowledge one of our researchers, Mike Bagmary, walking in the back there with his coffee, is also here, and I'll have a few more words for you in a second, Mike. And also our board chair, Lindsay Robinson, is here today as well. I want to start and acknowledge that right now we're standing here on Treaty 1 territory, the lands of the Anishinaabe, the Innu, the Anishinaabeg, and the Dakota peoples, and the national homeland of the Métis, of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water, including the water you have before you, comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory, and our hydroelectricity is primarily sourced from First Nation communities along the Nelson River in Treaty 5 territory. I want to, said many thank yous because something like this, it takes many hands and many people for everything to come together. Sorsha will be getting into a lot more of this, a lot more detail, but the Climate Safe Green City project is an ongoing project for the Manitoba Eco-Network. We moved into phase 2 of the project. We couldn't do this project without our community partners. So, as Sorsha will explain, Climate Safe Green City is working with 3 inner city neighborhood renewal corporations. That's West Broadway Community Organization, WestEnd Resource Center, and Spence Neighborhood Association. So we really want to thank all of the community organizations for partnering with us, because this project really is a collaboration between the Manitoba Eco-Network and those 3 organizations. We also do want to thank Alexandra Caparelli. She designed the survey, worked on it for a long time, and she's since moved on to better things. She was our resource manager from 21 to 2025. And I did message her before. Unfortunately, with her new job, she wasn't able to be here, but she wished us best of luck. And we really thank her for everything she's contributed to this project. I did acknowledge Mike Bagmary is in the room. He did some research for us on cooling centers, and that research is live on our website now if you want to look at it, as well as the entire 72-page report. We also had 2 pro bono students of Canada, Esther Adigabasan and Luke Pankratz. I hope I got that right. They both helped do some legal research on this project as well, and want to acknowledge them. They weren't able to make it today. I also want to acknowledge, as Ali was going through many iterations of the survey as we were trying to get it to its final form, she consulted with a number of people, including Karen Windat and Vanessa Russell at Efficiency Manitoba, and I'll note that Vanessa Russell is here today. Thank you very much for being here. Also, Mary Agnes Welsh from Probe Research, who wasn't able to join us today, and also Dr. Patricia Fitzpatrick, the University of Winnipeg Department of Geography, who also wasn't able to join us here today, but wished us well. Of course, then, in addition to all of the staff that I've already acknowledged in the room here today, then of course our funders. The Climate Safe Green City project has received support from the Manitoba government. We've also received initial support to get the project off the ground from the Winnipeg Foundation. I've also received support from the Cinnamon Credit Union and the University of Winnipeg Department of Urban and Inner Studies, as well as Manitoba Eco-Network donors, so we certainly appreciate that support. So with all of that said, I'm going to turn it over to Sorsha, and you won't need to hear any more from me until the end as we get back to the questions, and Sorsha is going to present the results of our survey.
Awesome. Thank you so much, James. Thank you for coming here today. The research presented to you here today was completed as part of a larger Eco-Network project called Climate Safe Green City. The focus of the Climate Safe Green City project is to build on our neighborhood partners' existing environmental capacity, allowing them to increase climate resiliency within the areas they serve. Our partners on this project included the Spence Neighborhood Association, the West Broadway Community Organization, and the West River Resource Center. And although they're unfortunately not with us here today, I do want to take a moment to thank SNA's Stephen Kirk, WBCO's Kelly Fraser, and WERC's Alex Lagar. I've worked with those people for a really brief period of time, but every time I do talk with them, I can see how much they care about their communities, and I'm really looking forward to the work that we're going to be doing together in the coming year. So a climate resilient community is one that can actively prepare for changes to the local climate, respond to its effects, and continue to thrive under evolving environmental circumstances. The United Nations defines climate resilience in 3 categories: under people and livelihoods, under business and economy, and under environmental systems. The cold weather, hot weather, and your hydro bill survey focuses on the second category, specifically within the framework of addressing energy poverty. Put really plainly, we wanted to learn about people's experiences trying to cover their energy bills each month, understand how they can prioritize and afford these bills, and hear about how people are dealing with temperatures in their home while living in a changing climate. These questions were going to give us some meaningful way to see the picture and limitations and vulnerabilities faced by people in these neighborhoods, and to help inform any change that can be made by local governments. The survey itself was designed with the purpose of being as equitable as possible for all participants, which meant engagement with the survey questions needed to feel comfortable for anyone who chose to complete it. One thing important that we made sure to do was allowing participants to skip certain questions that they felt uncomfortable with, that they felt that they didn't understand, or that they felt that they weren't able to answer. We chose the SurveyMonkey platform because of its simple user interface, and so that it could be widely shared across social media. And for anyone who couldn't complete it online through internet access or access to computers or laptops, we also handed out paper copies of the survey to each of our community partners and advertised it with flyers in the neighborhoods so that those paper copies could be inputted by Eco-Network staff into the survey platform itself. So questions were developed in the hopes that the answers could assess WestEnd residents' perceived ability to afford their energy bills and understand the financial vulnerabilities that were faced because of climate-driven cost increases, to gain insight into how residents with self-mitigating exposure to extreme heat or extreme cold, both inside and outside their home, and to give a louder voice to community-led adaptive solutions within a policy framework. So the sample area would include the neighborhoods of Daniel McIntyre, Spence, West Broadway, and St. Matthews. Survey respondents came from those four neighborhoods, and we ended up with a sample of 142 WestEnd residences across 92 postal codes between February and June 2025. So Efficiency Canada defines energy poverty as a situation where a household is unable to access adequate energy to maintain well-being at home, and where a household spends 30% of its housing cost on energy alone. Data maps published by Efficiency Canada show that as of spring 2025, over 116,000 households in Manitoba are at risk of experiencing some level of energy poverty. All of the neighborhoods in our sample area are also categorized as at high risk for poverty within the city of Winnipeg, putting these households at greater risk. The results of our survey indicate that both homeowners and renters experience the impacts of energy poverty. When asked about their living situation, 47.14 question respondents identified as homeowners and 51.43 identified as renters. We also saw that a majority of renters pay their hydro and utility bills separately from their monthly rent payments. When we asked participants if they had to choose between paying hydro bills and paying for other costs of living in the last 5 years, we wanted to make sure that we were acknowledging the differences between renter and homeowner data. When looking at that data, homeowners accounted for 38.33% of the yes answers, while renters accounted for 51.85%. These results were similar to research and studies from other urban centers, and we can see that this is affordability is becoming a cross-country issue. To get a broad view of how temperature changes were affecting these households, we also asked participants how very cold or very hot weather impacted them in their homes. Over 85% of the 142 survey respondents answered as having experienced some form of negative impacts for their household as a result of extreme outdoor temperatures. Question respondents selected one or more multiple choice answers, allowing us to see how each person felt affected. Over 51% of question respondents said very cold or very hot weather made their homes feel uncomfortable. That same 51.64% of respondents said that their bills for hydro or gas had gone up because they were trying to regulate their home's temperatures. Over 33% noted difficulty sleeping, and 25.41% of respondents said that they avoided having people over or inviting over friends and family because their homes felt so uncomfortable. Respondents noted struggling to concentrate, feeling fatigued and being less active, and having heightened emotional responses because of how the temperatures at home made them feel. Health impacts were also something we wanted to look at. So when we asked the questions about chronic illness and about feeling well in their household, 18.85% of question respondents said they experienced worsened symptoms of a chronic illness and or disability as a result of extreme indoor temperatures. Over 17% said they felt sick more frequently, and 18.85% also said that the people in their household did not feel well. 13.93% said they were worried about their overall health and safety as a result of how uncomfortable their home felt because of these temperatures. The Canadian Climate Institute is among many organizations reporting on the harms that extreme heat can have on human health. Their report on British Columbia's 2021 heat wave identified the dangers of prolonged heat exposure in urban centers and the strain that heat-related ER visits can put on local healthcare systems. That report also noted the deaths of 619 people as being directly caused by heat exposure over 1 week between June 2025 and July 2nd, 2021. Statistics like this are deeply sad, and they can feel deeply frightening. They also highlight the importance of tracking heat-related deaths per annum and for provinces to have clear procedures or guides in place for healthcare professionals to reference in the event that they have to treat heat wave victims in very sudden and large numbers. Being able to protect themselves from extreme heat temperatures would be the ideal first option, but for people who can't do that reliably or who can't do it at all, we had to look at alternative solutions. We wanted to see ways that people were keeping warm or cool and where they were going if they had to leave home to do it. We focused on the use of public city facilities and any other publicly accessible indoor locations. Survey respondents were asked, if you go somewhere other than your home to stay cool in the summer, where do you go? The same question was asked for the winter. For the summer answers, for all the answers, we tried to focus on places that people could go for free, like public libraries, locations with an associated cost, like movie theaters or malls, and locations associated with a physical or spiritual need, like a public shelter or a house of worship. For the summer answers provided by the question respondents showed that pools and splash pads were the most popular choice, with 51.96% of survey respondents choosing those as their top option. 50.98% of question respondents selected malls and theaters, over 47% selected parks and green spaces, and 31.37% selected community centers or libraries. People were also given the chance to write in longer free-form answers to account for spaces that may have been missed, and one thing that people were noting is the lack of accessible options, specifically within their neighborhoods other than splash pads and wading pools. In emergent studies, these public spaces where people can go to get out of extreme outdoor temperatures in the summer are often called cooling centers. Our research does indicate that there's no formal definition for cooling centers in Canada, but within the literature they are generally understood to include an air-conditioned indoor space that can be regulated to 15 degrees below outdoor temperatures, outdoor facilities like splash pads, pools, or green spaces with shaded canopies in the form of large open-air tents or heavy tree cover. Options for cooling centers that are actually inside the areas of Daniel Mac, St. Matthews, Spence, and West Broadway tend to be slim. There are no movie theaters, there are no indoor shopping malls, and there are no public libraries specifically within the neighborhood boundaries. Research stresses the importance of cooling centers needing to be safe and welcoming places for all people who need access to them. And they note the importance of cooling centers being within a maximum 15-minute walkable distance from any given residence in order to ensure adequate spatial accessibility and usability for users. We do want to note that while there are spaces like libraries close by the outside of these neighborhoods, it was important to observe accessibility through the lens of the sample area itself. Like for example, today the Harvey Smith Library is a 31-minute walk from where we are at the WestEnd Commons. The Millennium Library is a 24-minute walk, and it would take 20 minutes to walk from here to the Cornish Library. And a 20-minute walk on when it's plus 30 generally feels longer than 20 minutes. In order to be effective, cooling centers such as splash pads and wade pools need to be on well-trafficked routes, near publicly available bathrooms and washing stations, and staffed by friendly volunteers who know first aid, so that they can be utilized by larger portions of the local community. The Kinsman Sherbrooke location is the only pool within the survey sample area, and this pool recently stopped cutbacks with summer morning lap hours, reducing the time when residents can even use it. While the Cindy Clausen pool is a West End alternative, on hot summer days it may feel too far for residents without access to transportation. Which brings us to our first recommendation, which is to invest in more locations and longer hours for public spaces such as libraries, recreational facilities, pools, and splash pads. Now, the City of Winnipeg 2024-27 multi-year budget did make some investments to expand library hours, but for neighborhoods that don't have libraries within their boundaries, this left something to be desired. We also acknowledge that the challenging budget that Winnipeg and other municipalities face, so we do call on all levels of government to invest more, as the City of Winnipeg cannot do it alone. Our second recommendation is to review and update the safety and accessibility policies with respect to cooling centers such as library and recreational facilities. So due to the problems highlighted above with location accessibility of cooling centers, there appears to be a need for Winnipeg to review its safety policies with respect to these areas. Further research in this area is needed, but potential solutions could include providing senior programming at public libraries with emergency medical staff on site, suspending admissions costs at city pools during days of extreme heat so that people who live in poverty have the same access as anyone else, and expanding hours at all of these crucial public facilities as per our first recommendation. In areas where indoor cooling centers don't exist or can't exist, our research has led us back to exploring outdoor shading options to see how we can connect residents to the facilities that do. So to make cooling centers in the West End more accessible, Winnipeg could implement green pedestrian corridors that connect these cooling centers via a network of protected bike lanes and shaded walkways. Green pedestrian corridors have been shown to protect the health of urban residents who have access to them by positively increasing localized air quality. A study completed in Toronto in 2016 is one of many that support urban shading for its public health and safety benefits. The results show that the city neighborhoods with less than 5% tree canopy experience 5 times as many heat-related emergencies than neighborhoods with a 5% or higher total tree canopy. And those same neighborhoods experience nearly 15 times as many heat-related calls in areas compared to areas with a 70% or higher neighborhood tree canopy. The data suggests that even a marginal increase in the tree canopy could reduce heat-related ambulance calls. For example, the neighborhoods of Daniel Mac and St. Matthews could benefit from a west central shade loop that could be used to connect the cooling center areas of Greenway School, the Vallier Community Center Oriole site, General Wool School, Daniel Mac Collegiate, Jacob Bennett Park, and John Van King School. So that's what people had to say about neighborhood solutions to adapt to our energy poverty. But about preventing it in the first place, we saw that assistance and subsidy programs for renters and homeowners are shown to play a crucial role in presenting energy household poverty. When asked about available programs, 49.55% of questioned respondents said that they had accessed some form of public, government, or corporate assistance related to their household's energy costs within the last 5 years. The most used programs included the Manitoba Hydro's Equalized Payment Plan, the Efficiency Manitoba's Energy Efficiency Program, and Manitoba Rent Assist. The survey questions also gave respondents a chance to fill in any long-form answers about their experiences with subsidy and assistance programs. Many people experienced frustrations around the lack of support available to renters surrounding energy efficiency in their own homes, or to homeowners who were from lower income backgrounds. Lots of those people do know about the programs for home improvement, like for heat pumps or for new windows, but they don't feel like those options are realistic for them financially. Homeowners also reported the issue of their homes needing larger, more expensive upgrades, like energy-efficient HVAC systems or needing to replace old and antique forms of insulation. We also compared data from subsidy and assistance programs answers to survey respondents who self-identified as belonging to a socially vulnerable group based on factors like gender or belonging to the global majority. Among those social groups, we found that the Manitoba Hydro Equalized Payment Plan was most accessed among women. The Manitoba Rent Relief Fund and the Manitoba Rent Assist programs were tied for being most accessed amongst Indigenous participants, and the 2 Energy Efficiency Manitoba programs were tied for access by those who identified as being part of other visible majority groups. All of this points to the need for a reevaluation of existing subsidy and assistance programs to make sure the application process remains equitable across all populations. Another need is to improve upon the incentive programs that help homeowners and landlords improve the energy efficiency of buildings, particularly for older buildings like the ones commonly found in the West End. A full review of these programs is beyond the scope of this presentation, but I do want to note that the supporting literature we've listed in our report provides lots of helpful recommendations for anyone that wants to read furthermore. Our research also included looking at solutions from the bylaw perspective to see how concerns from survey participants could be addressed through changes to public policy. And we were met with several examples. In order to protect residents from conditions of extreme heat, several jurisdictions in the United States have implemented bylaws that set limits on indoor temperatures for rental units during hot summer months. This includes Montgomery County, Maryland, Tempe, Arizona, and Dallas, Texas. From examples within Canada, the city of Hamilton, Ontario, and the municipality of New Westminster, British Columbia, are 2 examples where local governments have recently proposed municipal bylaws that would limit maximum indoor temperatures to 26 degrees Celsius. At this time, both bylaws have yet to be passed. Within our own province, Manitoba doesn't have comparable municipal bylaws or provincial legislation that limits the maximum housing temperatures during hot periods, only for minimums during periods of cool temperatures. In Winnipeg, the City of Winnipeg Neighborhood Liberty Bylaw, Section 43, sets heating standards in the winter months. Dwellings are required to be connected to a heating system with a minimum daytime and evening temperatures for dwellings being 21 degrees Celsius and 18 degrees Celsius, respectively. This provides protection from cold during the winter, but the city has yet to adopt amendments that set a maximum housing temperature during the summer. According to the Prairie Climate Center's Climate Atlas, the number of days with temperatures above 25 degrees in Winnipeg are expected to increase from our current average of 57 days all the way up to 81 to 101 days per year, depending on the city's future carbon emission levels. The reality here is that Winnipeg needs to adapt to a warming planet, and it needs to do it sooner rather than later. The city could even maybe make history here if they choose to act by adding cooling standards to the neighborhood livability bylaw that limit indoor temperatures. If officials decide If officials decide to act, we could surpass the areas of Hamilton and New Westminster and become the first Canadian jurisdiction to legally provide temperature protection to Canadians. Changes could also take place at the municipal level. In Manitoba, heating requirements are found in section 17.1 of the Dwellings and Buildings Regulation under the Public Health Act. The Act sets similar temperature rules and requires dwellings to provide adequate heating, to ensure that the heating is in good working order, and to ensure that the heating systems are installed safely. An amendment to the Dwelling and Building Regulation that could set heat maximums and ensure cooling systems are safely installed and operational to protect public health during waves of extreme hot weather is a way that change could extend beyond our sample area and work to protect all Manitobans. When a rental property provides air conditioning, the landlord is required to maintain the air conditioning unit in good state of repair under the Residential Tenancies Act, but further clarity could also be provided to explicitly include cooling in an extreme heat period as a vital service. The Residential Tenancies branch is already updating its policies and procedures guidebook, and the updated version has an entire subsection devoted to heating equipment and to fireplaces, but doesn't have a comparable section for cooling. A change there could be made to include that comparable section for cooling, and would provide an opportunity to update policies and procedures with respect to cooling standards and attention to periods of extreme heat. So our analysis today did focus on all of these survey responses, hearing everyone's concerns, hearing their own ways of problem solving, and applying our own research capacity to amplify everything people were saying to us. It is just my personal opinion, but I find that when community advocacy works, it doesn't find solutions, we allow ourselves to be told them. No one can better understand the struggles that the people are going through than the people themselves. And what we heard from our communities during this survey is that people are struggling to pay their energy bills, which is putting the physical and financial health of households at risk. What those people told us is that they need access to financial support, to spatially equitable access, and to safe and well-supported public facilities, and to be protected by their government through changes in policy. I'm now going to invite James back to the stage for a little brief question period if anyone has questions for us.
Thank you. Please feel free, if anyone has any questions, feel free to jump in. I'll quickly, I did realize I forgot a couple thank yous that are important. All of the community members that completed our survey, I forgot to thank them, which was really important, so I'll just throw that thank you out there. And also our vendors, the Spence Neighborhood Association Youth Employment Programs provide delicious food there for you folks. And then we have Echo Canada here assisting with translation services. And also I want to thank Olga and Sharon at here at the WestEnd Commons. So I just make those because I forgot to make those. I was sitting down and I'm like, oh, I forgot to thank you. But please, does anyone have any questions about a report, anything further they'd like us to go into?
If anyone wants to read the full report as well, I believe it is live on our website now.
Yeah, if you go to our website, right in our news on our main, you'll see the release. And then, like, if you notice the release has links to it, those links are live at in the background of the release. So if you wanted to read the 72-page report, we were the Eco-Network, so we didn't print out many copies. We thought you could go online and minimize paper. We do what we can to sort of produce, obviously.
The report will contain like the full survey analysis, all the survey questions, and the raw results of data as well for anyone that wants to look at those.
Yeah, and we also did post both the Pro Bono Sturgeon's Canada memo as well as the memo done by Mike Magamaria as well. So if you're wanting, we referenced, I think, many of the studies that were done in our background research, but there may be a couple studies that didn't make it in there for editorial purposes.
Yeah. You spoke of the cooling, the cooling centers, and then heating and electricity in the house, I guess heating and cooling in the house. As an eco-network, which one do you think is one that should be pushed the hardest?
Yeah, that was a question that we had asked ourselves as well. I think one thing that was important to remember is that when addressing the impacts of a warming climate, when addressing climate change, and when addressing energy, you also have to address energy equity. And so while it may look like, including these like indoor temperature limits might look like pushing for more air conditioning, what it really is pushing for is protecting people within their homes. These cooling centers are a good backup option if people are not able to regulate the temperature within their homes. It's nice to have a place to gather, but ideally every Manitoban, every Winnipegger does have a home where they can feel comfortable, where they can feel like the climate inside isn't going to make them feel sick or isn't going to impact their health. So when it comes to which one are we pushing for, we really are just trying to listen to what the people are saying to us throughout the survey and from the neighborhood itself.
And just two other points, we did notice that there was a slightly higher percent of respondents that do deal with extreme cold as well that impacts them. So we're not saying that there isn't a need there, but there has been relatively more work on, in terms of, we already have regulations of the Public Health Act and the Neighborhood Livability Bylaw that deals with minimum indoor temperatures. We do have great organizations like Efficiency Manitoba trying to work and trying to create programs where people can retrofit their houses, but we're not looking as much on the warming side, but we are in a warming world, and so when we're looking at northern cities like Winnipeg, we're not actually that well prepared for that warming world, so we also felt it was worth highlighting. And then I suppose perhaps a little bit, right now we're in the midst of summer, so we did take a little bit more of a focus on the heat impacts just because it's more topical. You're probably more thinking about overheating than freezing right now in August.
Okay, well.
No further questions?
Maybe we'll do some one-on-ones from me.
Sure, yep, happy to do one-on-ones, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, there we go, more questions, yes, please, there we go. Ask us questions, it's more entertaining to ask questions and dive into this. And
acknowledging that the focus of the study was on heating and cooling, would you foresee any further work being needed on the area of indoor air quality or outdoor air quality?
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean to speak for anyone, but I think that this summer in particular has all taught us, at least in Winnipeg especially, the importance of air quality and the importance of air quality throughout the province. So when it comes to looking at like indoor air quality, that was something that was outside the scope of this particular study. But taking the study like a step further, relaunching into a second phase, maybe looking at different questions we could like get out to the public again, either through the same online platform of engagement or through a door-to-door platform of engagement. I think those are going to be important to address in the future as well.
And we did highlight both the Manitoba Builds Green Report recently released by CCPA and the International Institute of Sustainable Development, and also the research by the Pro Bono students did highlight looking at things like changes to building code to deal with better building ventilation. So there is a lot of further research on that. Because we were ultimately trying to look at what the community told us in the survey, we haven't jumped into the next step of what would be all the building programs, what would be all the necessities. We would see that as being a further study and acknowledge others like yourself, Lindsay, that certainly have a lot of knowledge and expertise that could also be added to make a further study like that more robust.
Awesome. Okay.
Okay, well, we'll do the one-on-ones unless people want to ask any further questions. It will be on our website if people want to reach out to us, ask more questions. Like, we are hoping this is not just this is a one-time release, but we're hoping to keep, putting the results of the report out. We're going to be putting some stuff out on our social media, so we are hoping the public will engage with our research and with our survey results. And we're hoping actually it will result in changes such as protections for maximum indoor temperatures.
Yeah, well, thank you all for coming. If you want to find James and myself after, please feel free. And please grab some refreshments. SNA was amazing and they made tons of stuff. So take some lunch home, guys. Thank you so much.